everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about my favorite cutting tools that I use in the craft room. And as most of you know, I do a lot of card making and I do a lot of journal making, and then kind of some things in between too. I'll make some charms, I'll do other things that scissors really come in handy for. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the different types of scissors and trimmers that I use that are really helpful because they each serve a specific purpose, and I'll explain that to you in a second. So let me start out with the types of scissors that I really like. So this first pair, these are my I guess you could call them fussy cutting scissors. They're scissors that you would use to trim out small pieces of paper, embellishments. I mean, you can use it to cut thread. I like to use these. These are Cutter Bee brand scissors, and they're non-stick, and they're the perfect size. And I like to use them to trim out, you know, like florals and on scrapbook pages. So if you want to make an embellishment, you can do that. Just any type of small precision cutting that you need to do, these are perfect for. They come also in regular. So this is non-stick, and there's just the regular metal. I prefer the non-stick because there's always some little bit of adhesive that ends up being on the back of something that your scissors are going to go across. So this kind of helps keep the scissors gliding smoothly through the paper. So these are, I've tried all different kinds of small kind of fussy cutting scissors, and I always go back to these. I had, there's a yellow and black version too, and I forget what I did. I cut something, I think I cut like something metal, or I was trying to cut something that was not meant for scissors, and I ended up bending the scissors. So I had to get a new pair, and I ended up finding a different pair that I thought, oh, I'll just try. It should be the same thing. They weren't the same. I had to go back and buy these exact scissors because I just think these are great, and they feel good in your hand, and they move really easily especially when you're fussy cutting. So these are my Cutter Bee scissors. Next are fabric scissors. So for those of you that do sewing, I'm not saying anything that you don't know already, but you always need to, if you're going to be working with fabric, you need to keep a pair of scissors specifically for cutting fabric. So these scissors are not used for paper or cutting anything else that's not fabric. And these are from Fiskars, and I think I just picked them up at Hobby Lobby or something like that. And of course I like the floral handles on them, but they work really well. They're kind of ergonomic, and I use them to trim out material that I use to cover the fronts of journals that I make. So these are really helpful. These are not non-stick, but they work really well, and they're so smooth because all I use them for is fabric. And I also use them to trim ribbon too, because since they're left just for fabric, they cut ribbon really well too. So those are my fabric scissors. And then finally, these are my big non-stick shears. These are from Holtz, and he actually has two different sizes. This is the larger size, and I actually have the smaller size too that you can use for fussy cutting. I don't use these as much though, I have to say, because for some reason the Cutter Bee scissors seem to fit in my hand better. And these are great because they're also non-stick, but I think the handles on these are just a little too big for me. So they may be something you would want to try if you prefer this type of handle. But for me, the smaller size doesn't work as well for me, but I do like the larger size. And these larger shears are really great for trimming off pieces of paper that kind of hang off the ends of cards. I use it a lot for that. And let me show you what I mean by that. So say, for instance, you have a card that has an embellishment on the front. Usually what I do is I'll have a flower on the front of a card, but I like to have it kind of hanging off the side, and then I'll trim off the end of it to kind of give the illusion of movement, like the flower is kind of coming in from the side. And so I'll adhere it like this, and then I'll flip it over onto the back, and then I'll use my big shears to just cut right close to the edge of the cardstock here, and I just trim it right off. And these work really well because they're non-stick, and they just really get in there, and they're long enough that they can cover the whole length of the paper. So that's what I like these for. I use them to cut paper as well if I just need to cut off a quick strip of paper. So just kind of great all-purpose scissors. I really like these for those. So those are the scissors. And I guess I might as well talk to you about how I take care of my scissors. So even though these are nonstick and these are nonstick, every once in a while they do get some adhesive on them, and then they might be a little bit sticky. So what I always use is this Goo Gone, and you may have this in your house for other things. I know I use this for everything. I've got it to take off stickers, like if you get a price tag on something that the sticky part won't come off, I'll use it for that. I think you can get crayon marks off. There's all kinds of things you can use this for. And it smells really good. It smells like orange. But I use this to clean my scissors, and it works really well. So all you do is just put a little bit on a paper towel, like that. And then these actually have some adhesive on them. I forget what I did, but I got adhesive all over them. And you just kind of run it along the scissors. These long shears are a little bit serrated too, so it makes them cut even better. So you kind of got to get into the little serration marks. But it cleans everything off really well. So these were kind of sticking before, and now they're smooth and work perfectly. So every once in a while, I'll just kind of take care of my scissors with the Goo Gone. Actually, these have some adhesive on them too. And then you just kind of run this off, and it just works really well. So that's the Goo Gone. And I've had this bottle forever. It's got maybe 2/3 full still, and I've had it for years, so it doesn't take a lot. Okay, next I want to talk about trimmers, and I have a couple of different kinds of trimmers. The first one, this is my favorite one for just kind of everyday card making and just trimming paper and things like that. This is from Fiskars, and this is just a slide trimmer, and I like this particular one because you can extend it out so you can trim off 12 by 12 paper for scrapbooking. So it goes, this little arm flips out like this. And then it also has, I don't even know if you can see this. I'm going to kind of hold it up to the camera. It has a little wire here. You're going to hear me strum it. It's like a guitar string. And this is really helpful for lining up your paper to get a perfectly straight line. So when you want to make sure that your paper is perfectly straight on the trimmer when you go to cut it up against the inch marks, the little string is really helpful, or little wire. And I'll just show you a little demo real quick. So all you do is just slide the paper in here. And I've tried different ones. There's rotary cutters. There's one that has like a rotary cutter thing on it. I like this one. I've tried them all, and this is the one that I've stuck with for many years. So this is just nice because you just slide the trimmer down. You've got the wire lined up here, and then you can just make a nice even cut. And it's nice and straight. Depending on how many projects you do, on a regular basis, you'll need to change your blade every once in a while. But I just keep a bunch in my drawer to change it out, and it's really easy. You just take the little blade out like this, and then pop it back in. So it's really, really simple to change. So this is my all-purpose everyday trimmer that I use. And then when I need something that's a little stronger and also to cut more delicate pieces of paper, such as magazines or even vellum. Some vellum can go through the slide trimmer okay. Other pieces of vellum are a little thin, and I get nervous doing that slider because you can wrinkle the vellum as you're trying to cut it. So I use a guillotine trimmer, and up until the last month or so, I just had this small one that I used for card making. But then since I started making journals, I purchased a bigger 12 by 12 one that I'm going to show you in a minute that has really helped me too. So this small guillotine trimmer, this is from We Are Memory Keepers. It just has an arm that goes up like this, and then all you do is stick your cardstock in here. And what I like about this is it's got this plastic guard. So then when you're sticking your paper in here, you can put the guard down. It guards your hand from the blade, but then it also helps you kind of hold down the paper better. when you have something on top of it, I feel like it helps you than just having something loose like this. So this guard is really helpful. And then you can cut really thin strips of paper. So this little one is nice for smaller, quick cuts that you need to make. Like I said, for thin, I do a lot of, when I make my journals, I use a lot of magazine pages or catalog pages, and they're very thin and delicate. And this is perfect for that. And you can just trim like just the little edge off if it has like a little wrinkled edge or something. So this is really good for that. So now I'm going to show you my 12 by 12 guillotine trimmer. And I actually purchased 2 of them because I was trying to do a comparison because I wasn't sure which one I liked better. So for those of you that are kind of looking to maybe get a guillotine trimmer, this next section is going to be something that you may want to stick around for. I decided I needed a bigger trimmer because it was going to save me time when I was trimming off my journal pages. From my sewn journals. A lot of times, for those of you that make journals, you have pages that kind of stick out from the cover or stick out from the signatures, and you want to just cleanly trim those off. And a guillotine trimmer is the best way to do that because you can trim multiple pages versus the slide trimmer that it was really only recommended for maybe 1 or 2 pages at the most. I wouldn't try anymore because you don't want to wrinkle your paper or tear it or anything like that. So the guillotine trimmer is what I think is the best. So let me go ahead and show you the 2 that I've tried out. Okay, these are pretty big trimmers. So I wanted to kind of do a side by side to kind of show you. So I'm kind of panning out as I'm showing you the 2 trimmers. So I'll explain a little bit about why I have 2 trimmers. So I originally had wanted to purchase the We Are Memory Keepers because of the lighter background on it. Plus, I couldn't find any other guillotine trimmer that had a plastic guard on it, and this one did. But at the time, I couldn't find this trimmer anywhere. It was either sold out or I wasn't able to find it in the places I was looking. So I decided to wait, but I did really want to try out a guillotine trimmer. So I purchased this one on Amazon from Swingline, and it's the Swingline Heavy Duty Guillotine Trimmer. And what I found once I bought this one too, I found they're both pretty similar as far as their makeup. They have a pretty light platform. So their platforms are kind of a light plastic. They weigh the same. So they're not the heavy duty ones you see at an office or a school. They're a little lighter weight, but the blades are quite heavy duty. The other thing besides the guards that I noticed too, the difference is with the We Are Memory Keepers, the measurements are very clearly marked and you get 1/4 inch measurements as well as the full inch measurements. However, the measurements are down a little bit from the top. So when you line your paper up, you're having to kind of line it up. Let me show you this. You have to kind of, you kind of push it up to the top of this lip here, and then you're kind of lining it up to the side like this. Whereas with this trimmer, the background is very dark, so it's hard to see a lot of the measurements. Up here they have them in kind of a brighter blue. So I mean, you can see them, but you don't have those 1/4 inch grid lines. And I think these are just 1/2 inch right here. But the thing I did like about this trimmer was that for some reason, the way I look at the way that I measure my paper, it was actually easier for me to have the measurements up here at the little lip that you put the paper at and line it up like that. It's a really small difference. So whatever you prefer, but it was something that I noticed between the 2 trimmers. So this one just does, it has the little, you can kind of see where a 1/4 inch would be, but it's not clearly marked. I like measurements to be written right there so I don't have to think about it. But if you don't mind, that's the difference between this one and the We Are Memory Keepers as well. So that's the first little difference I saw there. The other thing, they both have locking mechanisms because you really need that if you're going to have this in a craft room, if you have small children or anybody that you don't want to be touching this trimmer. This trimmer here has it's like a little notch. You can see on the side here that when you put the blade down, you kind of lock it into this notch and it locks in like that. This trimmer has an actual hook. And I'll kind of lift up and show you the hook right there, hooks around the blade and really secures it down. So this is a little bit more secure than this one, but again, it's just kind of a difference in how you unlock the lock. So I think that the hook gives it a little bit more security. The other difference with the blades on these two are that according to the description and on the box for the swing line, it mentions that this is a self-sharpening blade, which I really liked because I don't know how you change the blades on these if you have to buy a new one. They're not really that expensive, so I guess over time it's going to get worn out anyway, but it's kind of nice to know that this is self-sharpening. This, on the other hand, it didn't mention that it was self-sharpening. I didn't see anything in the description, so I'm going to assume that it's not. But you know, again, you know, if you end up wearing it out anyway, like the entire thing, you know, you may consider just buying a new one anyway, since it's not one of the more expensive trimmers. And then the thing that I had mentioned before about liking that there is a plastic guard on this trimmer, this is really nice when you're trimming paper. I feel like you can hold the paper better and keep it flat and straight versus, and I tried this in both of them, I felt like sometimes the paper would move a little bit because I didn't have the guard. The only thing that's kind of guarding your hand is this bar right here on the trimmer that's right next to the blade. So this kind of keeps your hand from getting near the blade as you're putting the blade up and down. Whereas this plastic guard is kind of further away and you can push your hand down and really get that paper down straight. So that's what I liked about this. The other thing with the blade I noticed with these two is the We Are Memory Keepers, when you're cutting, the blade really seemed to, I don't even know how you describe it. It was kind of just a really strong cut. Whereas this one kind of, it cut well, but it just kind of, you didn't get that real smooth cut with this one. Whereas this one seemed a little bit smoother as you were cutting down on the different kinds of paper. And then the other thing that I noticed too is a lot of times when I'm using a trimmer like this to trim journal pages, I need to be able to kind of push the thicker part of the journal or whatever I'm trimming. Like, you know, if you're trimming off the edge of something, you're going to have a thick part, like whether it's a book or something else that you're trimming off, you're going to have a thick part that you want to kind of fit under here. And I took a measurement, and this actually gives you a little more room underneath to slide something thicker under versus this side where all you kind of have is this guard here. So that was another kind of benefit to this particular trimmer that I noticed. Let me talk a little bit about the types of paper that I trimmed to kind of test it out. Both trimmers in the descriptions said that they can cut up to 10 sheets of paper. I'm assuming this means 10 kind of basic sheets of copy paper. And so I did try that, and that's definitely true. I was able to cut, 10 sheets of this kind of thin copy paper, and which is nice because a lot of times if you're making journals, you've got the thin pieces of paper for journal writing, and it's nice that you can trim off multiple pages at one time if you're trying to cut down pages and try to make it fit in your book. Another thing I tried cutting was 100-pound cardstock. This is what I use for my card making. So it's kind of a thicker cardstock. I prefer this for card making. I just think it's sturdier. I tried it in both trimmers, and both could cut 4 of these at one time. But again, I felt like when I trimmed the cardstock in this one, I got a cleaner cut, like it's just a really smooth cut when the arm came down with the blade versus this one, this one was fine too, but I just felt like you got a quicker cut. You didn't have to kind of push as hard with this particular one. Okay, and then another type of paper I tried was kind of your basic 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. So this is pretty thin. It's a little thicker than copy paper, but it's definitely thinner than the 100-pound cardstock. So, if you get a machine like this, you kind of have to test it out ahead of time to know what it can take, depending on what you use in your craft room. But as far as the scrapbook papers are concerned, I was able to trim up to 7 sheets together in both of the both of the trimmers. So that was nice. That's quite a bit of paper. So if you're trimming things down again for journals or books or backgrounds for cards, this is a great option. Okay, and then when you get into kind of the heavier papers, I also wanted to try kind of a thin cardboard. So what I mean by thin cardboard, I'll just kind of show you. This would be cardboard that you maybe would use as a backing for products that you send through an Etsy shop. If you have paper that you're sending and you want to back it with some thin cardboard, this is what I'm talking about. And as far as these trimmers are concerned, they were both able to trim this thin cardboard perfectly fine. I wouldn't do more than one. I would just do one at a time, but they both trimmed them really well. And then the other thing I wanted to try, for those of you that make journals and you know bookboard is something that you use a lot if you're creating a spine for your journals. And I had a piece of bookboard that I wanted to try out in both of the trimmers. So bookboard, it kind of looks like this. It's pretty thick. Normally I use a box cutter type trimmer with this type of thing, which it's not the best thing to be using. I prefer something a little bit safer. So I thought I would try one of these trimmers and see how it worked. I actually was not able to cut it with this one, and this is what happened. I kind of gave up after it cut part way because I didn't want to hurt the blade. But I was actually able to trim piece of bookboard to the length or to the width that I wanted using the We Are Memory Keepers trimmer. So that's kind of nice to know that I won't have to use my box cutter anymore to do that. Okay, so that's my little test today on the two different Guillotine trimmers. I'm going to keep them both because just to have a backup, and but you know, you can kind of, if you're in the market for buying a Guillotine trimmer, hopefully this kind of helped you decide a little bit. I mean, ultimately it might be good to get one of those super heavy duty ones. I just felt like I didn't need something like that in my craft room, and I think those are pretty expensive. So I thought I'd just kind of go middle of the road, you know, kind of a lighter version that would suit my needs. So these are both great options. I know this one had pretty good reviews on, actually they both had really good reviews on Amazon. So it's kind of up to you what you're looking for. You know, consider, you know, how you like to look at measurements, color. I mean, I don't know, sometimes it's just nice. Obviously I like this color because it's lighter and it has the pretty kind of mid-green handle on it, but this has like a pretty blue handle on it too. So it's kind of whatever, you know, if that's what makes the difference, then, you know, go for this one. But hopefully this video helped you today and kind of deciding what types of cutting tools would be good for your craft room and maybe making some decisions on upgrading a little bit. So thanks again for watching today, and I'll see you in my next video.